დავიწყოთ ხოლმე ნელა.
უნდა დავიწყოთ, იმიტომ რომ ისინი იქველოდება.
გთხოვთ დაბრძანდეთ ვეფხისტყაოსნის სტუმრებო და გთხოვთ შემობრძანდეთ და დავიწყოთ ნელა ჩვენი ღონისძიება. მოგესალმებით ვეფხისტყაოსნის სტუმრებო. მე ვარ მიხეილ კაპანაძე, საქართველოს საბანკო ასოციაციიდან და ვიწყებთ ჩვენს side events, ანუ ვერდის ღონისძიებას, რომელიც ლარის 30 წლის იუბილეის პარალელურად ტარდება. ჩვენი ღონისძიება ეძღვნება კავშირების განმტკიცებას საზღვრებსმიღმა ფინანსური ჩვენი ღონისძიება ეძღვნება საზღვრების განმტკიცებას საზღვრებსმიღმა ფინანსური ეკოსისტემისთვის. რამდენიმე სიტყვით მოგახსენებთ, როგორც დამსწრეთა დიდი ნაწილისთვის ალბათ ცნობილია, საქართველოში უკვე დიდი ხანია მიმდინარეობს ღია ბანკინგის განვითარება. თავიდან ეს ყველაფერი დაიწყო იმით, რომ ღია ბანკინგის სერვისები ხელმისაწვდომი იყო, ანუ ყველა ბანკს დაევალა წერილობითი მითითებით, რომ გამოექვეყნებინათ თავიანთი სერვისები ევროკავშირის PSD2 დირექტივის მიხედვით. შემდეგ ეს ყველაფერი გაიწერა კანონში, მერე დაგვეწია კანონქვემდებარე აქტის, რომელმაც საშუალება მოგცა, რომ არასაბანკო ტიპის ინსტიტუტებიც შემოერთებოდნენ ღია ბანკინგს და უკვე ასე ვთქვათ შეიგრა წრედი, რომ ბანკები და არასაბანკო ტიპის ინსტიტუტებიც უკვე არიან ჩართულები. ყავს და იზრდება რაოდენობა იმ ფინანსური ინსტიტუტების, ანუ არასაბანკო ტიპის ფინანსური ინსტიტუტების რაოდენობა, ვინც უკვე ჩაერთო, გამოიყენა, დაინტერესებაც მზარდია შესაბამისად, გადამდებია, მოდი ასე ვთქვათ, რაც ჩვენ რა თქმა უნდა ძალიან გვახარებს. ეს ღონისძიება იყო ეროვნული ბანკის და არის ეროვნული ბანკის და ჩვენი ერთობლივი ღონისძიება. ძალიან მოხარული ვართ, რომ რაღაც ამ ფორმატში შედგა და დაემთხვა ზოგადად ლარის 30 წლის იუბილეს და რაღაცნაირად, ასე ვთქვათ, იმიტომ რომ მოგეხსენებათ, რომ ერთია ქაღალდის ფული და მეორე არის ციფრული სამყარო, ანუ ჩვენი, ასე ვთქვათ, განვითარება მიუყვება ზოგადად განვითარებას, რომ არის რაღაცა ქაღალდი, შემდეგ რაღაცა ელექტრონულდება და ელექტრონულდება არა მარტო იმიტომ, რომ ეს თვითმიზანი ელექტრონულობა, არამედ იმიტომ, რომ ახალი, უფრო დახვეწილი, უფრო მოხერხებული სერვისები შეიქმნას. ჩვენ გვექნება ძალიან საინტერესო მოხსენებები, ფორმატზე რო გადავიდეთ, ანუ გვექნება ორი მოხსენება. შემდეგ გვექნება პანელი, სადაც სტუმრები, მათ შორის რეგიონიდან, ეს მნიშვნელოვანია, რომ ჩვენთვის ეს არ ყოფილიყო მხოლოდ საქართველოს ღონისძიება, არამედ ჩვენ გვესაუბრა ჩვენს რეგიონულ პარტნიორებთან და მომავალ პარტნიორებთან, მათ შორის ამ ყველაფრის, ასე ვთქვათ, გახსნაზე, იმიტომ რომ ღია არ ნიშნავს ღიას ქვეყნის შიგნით, ღია ნიშნავს ღიას ზოგადად. ერთ-ორ ტექნიკურ საკითხსაც გეტყვით, რომ ესე იგი ჩვენი ღონისძიება, გარდა იმისა, რომ თარგმანი არის ხელმისაწვდომი, ჩვენი ღონისძიება ასევე ხელმისაწვდომი იქნება, ანუ გაზიარდებული არის ასოციაციისა და ასოციაციის Facebook და YouTube გვერდებზე. იმ ხალხისთვის, ვინც სამწუხაროდ ვერ მოახერხა დასწრება, იმიტომ რომ ისი რომ დაინტერესება საკმაოდ დიდი იყო. რავი, იმედი მაქვს, რომ ყველაფერი იქნება ძალიან საინტერესო და იმედი მაქვს, რომ ეს ყველაფერი იქნება წამახალისებელი ჩვენი შემდგომი, ასე ვთქვათ, განვითარებისა და პანელს, ასე ვთქვათ, გახსნილად ვაცხადებთ, უბრალოდ ღონისძიებას. ჩვენი პირველი სტუმარი იქ არის ბატონი ჰაკან ეროღლუ, რომელიც ესე იგი საერთაშორისო ანგარიშსწორობის ბანკის ინოვაციების ხაბის წარმოადგენს და ის მოგვიყვება ძალიან საინტერესო პროექტის შესახებ, ეს არის პროექტი აპერტა, რომელიც ეძღვნება ამ ტიპის, რომელიც ასე ვთქვათ, ამ ტიპის ურთიერთჩართვას ეძღვნება და თუ არის უკვე შესაძლებელი რომ ჩავთოთ პრეზენტაცია, ანუ სამწუხაროდ ჩვენი პრეზენტატორი ფიზიკურად არ გვესწრება აქ, მაგრამ ჩვენ ესე იგი ჩვენი ღონისძიების ფარგლებში თან ღია ბანკინგს და ღია ფინანსებს როგორ შეეფერებოდა, ყველანაირი ტექნიკური საშუალება გამოვიყენეთ იმისათვის, რომ მიუხედავად იმისა, ვინმე მოახერხა თუ ვერ მოახერხა დაგვსწრებოდა, მაინც ყოფილიყო ჩვენთან. და გთხოვთ, რომ ჩავთოთ და მივესალმები ბატონ ხაკანს და უთმობ სცენას.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Alexander, for the kind introduction. My name is Hakan Eroklu. I'm an advisor at the BIS Innovation Hub in the Hong Kong Center for the Bank of International Settlements. And I would like to present Project Aperta and also the progress of the project a little bit, but more about what the project is about. And yeah, looking forward for the discussions further in the session today. I'm trying to share my screen, and I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Excellent. So you can see the front page. All right. So then let me start. So Project Aperta is, as I said, a project of the BIS Innovation Hub in the Hong Kong Center. And the Aperta project is about to reduce frictions in global finance through enabling a seamless cross data portability capability by connecting open finance infrastructures. So it's actually, you have, and I will show you that in a moment, multiple open banking, open finance ecosystems in various jurisdictions. And then what if you could connect them and make them interoperate so that all the different stakeholders and players in the different ecosystems can talk to each other cross-border and exchange data. So we want to achieve that through interoperability and harmonized standards and protocols. In the BS Innovation Hub, who's leading the project, we have multiple project participants. We have central banks. We have the Hong Kong Monetary Authority as one partner. We have the Central Bank of the UAE, the Central Bank of Brazil, the Financial Conduct Authority of the UK, the ICC, the International Chamber of Commerce, with its Digital Standards Initiative. And we have GLIFE, the Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation. And last but not least, the Hong Kong University as well. So as you can see, we have a mix between central banks, authorities, international organizations, and academia in the project. And together with these project partners who are active project participants who are actually working on the project, we also have observers. So together we have at the moment 13 observing members, including central banks, international organizations, standardization bodies and authorities, and different kinds of entities around the world who have an opinion on open banking, open finance, or they have their own regulations, their own initiatives, and are simply interested in getting updates and the progress of the project. And we have observing member meeting every 2 months to give update on the progress of the project. And as you can see, there's a logo of the National Bank of Georgia. So the NBG is also an observing member of Project Aperta. Now let me quickly deep dive into the problem statement and why we are looking into what we do in Project Aperta. So yeah, international trade finance faces multiple challenges, as you may know. Like processes are largely inefficient and costly for businesses. For example, due to excessive manual paperwork, the lack of data portability and affordable FX payment options. But mostly because most processes are physical and manual and requires human intervention. There have been private sector efforts so far to digitize trade finance, including the use of blockchain-based solutions, but these have not gained widespread traction, mostly due to fragmentation of the solutions in the landscape with the solutions, which are largely not interoperable amongst each other. And also, are actually island solutions, and it requires high investments in the bank side, the logistics firms, to actually, establish entirely new technical infrastructure. So, however, we see, a promising approach for the future solution, which is Project Aperta. So we aim to use existing open finance ecosystems that can be leveraged to foster this, what we want to achieve, namely cross-border data portability. And however, that's something to be mentioned, there are still, obstacles. However, thus, we believe we can solve that, right? To resolve the obstacles in global open finance and achieve cross-border connectivity through interoperable open finance API protocols, and also to increase the adoption of these protocols, and then connecting multiple infrastructures. Now, the idea is, and that's what the project is about in the end, the idea is to build a prototype of a multilateral global API network solution to enable that cross-border capability. The solution will use interoperable APIs to connect different domestic open finance ecosystems that can help them to reduce friction in global finance and drive digitization in cross-border financial activities. So for the prototype of Project Aperta, we decided to test the solution on use cases relevant to trade finance and for SMEs. I'll come to that in a moment. And of course, these findings in the project can actually act as, a technical protocol for the further development of open finance. That can help to make different ecosystems interoperate. So the learnings are very helpful for any type of ecosystem that aims to interconnect and to interoperate. Oh, let me just, yeah. So on the, probably I don't know how many of you are very familiar with the concept of open banking and open finance. The way how we understand it and how we have structured the project is, open finance is a mechanism that enables consented access to consumer data and accounts for third-party providers like fintechs, right? So they can access customer data and accounts, like account history and transaction data, through API aggregators. So the circle that you see here is an aggregator, and that connects multiple financial institutions, could be banks, insurances, and other financial institutions. And then an API aggregator that connects it and provides one standard way of connecting to all of them. However, it's very simplified because we have also trust framework and other infrastructure components in the ecosystem, but we really simplify it for the sake of make it easy to understand, to make the concept easy to understand. So, and we also view that the true value of open finance lies in cross-border data portability, right? By connecting these different domestic API aggregators and trust frameworks. So when we move into this direction, various jurisdictions have already signed bilateral cross-border data portability agreements, such as, for example, HKMA with the UAE, ADGM, and many others to exchange trade-related data. However, this does not only require signed agreements, but also common API standards and technical integration between the different ecosystems and its aggregators. So now imagine more jurisdictions have such bilateral agreements in this example, right? Let's say we have 4 jurisdictions, again, mutually sign additional bilateral agreements, right? And, increases issues, and that increases issues, and it becomes very apparent. So all these bilateral agreements create risk of fragmentation, scope, standards and solutions, and reduce interoperability, scalability, and eventually, and then ultimately increase complexity in general. So that's something that we want to avoid through Project Aperta, that we come up with a concept and protocols, ways of working that connects the different aggregators in the different jurisdictions. And again, aggregator stands for trust framework, the infrastructure, the different registries, that these ecosystems have, to connect them and make them speak to each other so that they mutually can trust each other. That, for example, a bank in jurisdiction A can trust a bank in jurisdiction C through this infrastructure. So that's what we want to achieve through that interoperability layer, which is then the prototype in our project. And here you can see, you can then have, of course, N jurisdictions joining that prototype or the platform in the future. So the proposed solution is really a high level here, right? Because the project has, by the way, started already. We selected a technical vendor that helps to develop the prototype, the respective technical protocols, and the respective code that we need to establish Aperta. But the main components are on the left-hand side, as you can see, is to create an engine that actually, translates the different standards that we have in a universal protocol that allows them to exchange the data from one end to the other one in an end-to-end trusted environment, including trade-related aspects. Because in many jurisdictions, we have open banking, open finance, specifically focusing on retail and a bit on SME, with certain financial products that are mostly not related to trade. But as I said, we believe in the use of open banking, open finance, but cross-border for trade, right? And that's why we want to marry open finance with the trade world and see how far we can get and how this infrastructure can be used for these types of use cases. And then we also want to ensure that the data is actually being translated universally, that data is understood and it can be interpreted universally between the different banks cross-border. And we want to achieve a trust framework cross-border, that a PKI from one jurisdiction can speak to the other one, and they mutually accept its licenses and allow these banks to connect through the aggregator to the other aggregator and then to the other bank to exchange data. We want to ensure harmonization in this project between the different standards through our protocol, and ensure data privacy and encryption. So we don't look into the data. The data is end-to-end encrypted. That's what we aim to achieve. And the solution should be modular and scalable in a way that to minimize, let's say, the adoption and the change at the jurisdictional side, right? That the heavy lifting of the translation and interoperability is done by Aperta. Now, I mentioned the use cases, right? So there are, of course, endless use cases, but two use cases that we want to test in a prototype is cross-border portability of customer data to open a bank account. Now, we are not going to simulate a bank opening process because it can be different from bank to bank, but we want to ensure that the data that is required to significantly improve and digitize the account opening process, such as provisioning of account history transaction, account transaction data, right, that the consumer has in another jurisdiction where the customer comes from, and then wants to transfer the data to the other jurisdiction, to the other bank in the other jurisdiction, to allow the customer to open a bank account, let's say an SME, to open a bank account much easier without providing paper documents. Additional information are KYC data, but also account balances and more that we want to bring to the table here to transfer cross-border. And that's really nice, because that's one of many banks and many central banks told us as well, that specifically for SMEs who want to expand their businesses, or even small businesses that move from one country to the other one and want to open a bank account, it can take months and even a year to open a bank account. Why not improving it through data portability in an electronic and trusted way that could significantly speed up the process of opening a bank account? The second one that we want to focus on, and that's quite new to open finance, is, as I said, the trade finance space. So this is an example. I don't want to go too deep dive. It's a very simplified process of exchange between a buyer bank and seller bank, trade contract, right? And hope, I don't know if most of you know probably that there are organizations such as the ICC and others who have worked on helping to standardize certain documents in a data structure, like how does a trade contract look like, right? And there are multiple standards to do it. But however, we want to see what are the standards that are being used today that we can reuse, right? We don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we want to reuse what's out there and combine it with what is there already with open banking, open finance, and bring that all into one prototype and see if open finance can actually add value to exchanging such data in using existing infrastructure. So we would, exchange like a trade contract electronically, a bill of lading, then letter of credit, information between seller bank, the buyer bank and seller bank, and then again exchange of the bill of lading, and finally trigger a payment. So, for example, if we have an invoice that is exchanged as well, then in this case you would initiate a payment, right? And that can be done through payment initiation, for example. So as you can see, there's a lot of opportunities to bring in different use cases and put it on top of open finance, of the open finance concept, and see if that can add value. And that's what we want to explore. We believe it's technically feasible, and I think we are sure we can do that. But I think this is just a starting point towards a journey of coming up with common protocols to exchange data cross-border. And this Aperta project is a starting point for that journey. So the Aperta project has a steering committee, which consists of these parties that are said. We are 8. So we are steering the project and making decisions all together, such as the decisions on the technical design, or any design decisions that need to be made, and so on and so forth. And we have 4 subcommittees: interoperability, technology, business, and policy. Interoperability is looking after the protocols and how existing standards can be used to come up with a translation protocol. Then technology is selecting the technology vendor, which we have done already, and then building the prototype and testing it. And the business is aiming to reach out to the private sector and see and seek some feedback on what we have built. And then the last one is policy, where we are reviewing existing policies and regulations of the different jurisdictions that are on the project, to see what is the current status and what is possible, what not, right? Because we are focusing here on technology only, so we explore the art of the possible and want to make sure that what we develop can actually be used, and also can in the end inspire jurisdictions to make such adjustments to make cross-border data portability feasible, using Aperta protocols and the ways of working. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions on the project, or if you're interested in general and want to know more about the project, you can reach out to me. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. კოლეგებო, კითხულობთ, ანუ ჩვენი კავშირი არის ორმხრივი, შესაბამისად შეგიძლიათ დასვათ მიკროფონში და გაიგონებს და გიპასუხებთ. შეგიძლიათ დასვათ კითხვა ინგლისურად, შეგიძლიათ დასვათ კითხვა ქართულად, როგორც თქვენთვის იქნება მოსახერხებელი. თუ არის ვინმე მსურველი? So if nobody, okay, just a second.
Hi, Vardam here. Let me ask a question. Thank you for a very insightful presentation. I want to help me just define the reality. Because the previous panel, Swapnendu Mohanty told us that past 10 years, all the way about cloud, API, and API. And next 10 years, he said, would be about tokenization, blockchain, AI, cybersecurity. So since we are working now on cross-border use cases of open banking and open finance, whether the definition of reality would be a little bit different, that past 10 years would have been API and cloud, but localized ones. And with the projects like Aperta, now we are taking it global, cross-border, and it's just beginning, as you said. So what do you think, how many years would it take to us to achieve some KPIs? Thank you.
Thank you, Valan, for the question. So your question is about how long it takes to achieve that, interoperability of what we want to achieve in Aperta, or is that?
So my question is that API is not new thing. It has been for past 10 years around. It has been a kind of key enabler for fintechs. Alongside with cloud, which is proper definition of reality. But as we see, when it comes to cross-border and interoperability, we are at the starting point. The project Aperta exemplifies this reality, and it's designed to solve this problem. So what your estimates, how long it will take for us to achieve kind of meaningful results about interoperability and talking those open banking API infrastructure, which are in place for quite a while, locally, but now in cross-border.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. Let's say on a domestic side, it took actually many years, right? And I mean, as you know, we started with PSD2, UK, and many other jurisdictions have joined the journey, and there are like lessons learned, about performance, about interpretation of the data, about infrastructure, and then there's this topic around identity. So it's a common issue like everywhere, right? What are the right building blocks that are missing to make it successful? And then on the other side, there's this discussion around incentives and business models, because in the end, open finance and open banking needs to be adopted and used by the private sector, right? So there need to be incentives as well to allow them to innovate and create, services that can generate revenues for them. Otherwise, you won't see uptake, right? But what we can see so far over the last years, right, and we looked into the statistics, is that the number of API calls are going up, going through the roof. Then I think once we have seen payments is a very important accelerator of usage of open finance and open banking, is that many use cases are built around payments. Once you get access to the payment infrastructure, there's much more that is going to happen, like where we see that in Brazil with Pix and PixPay, for example, connecting, building, QR code standards, using open finance rails to then create new ways of making payments, right? To make it universally accessible for any type of use case. So I think this is, different jurisdictions have different progress, right? It takes time that infrastructure gets adopted and being used. Now on the cross-border angle, and that's really a chicken egg problem here. So, once, is there a need for that? And there certainly is a need for exchanging data. And as I said, there have been tries with blockchain-based solutions to have common platforms where they can share data, and it seemed not to have worked. And using open finance for that is another try to make them interoperate. How long it takes, it's something too difficult to answer, because as you correctly said, open finance domestically goes around 10 years back, right? But I see a chance through collaboration. That's what we're doing in the Innovation Hub in Project Aperta, is to bring some of the leading jurisdictions in this space, like Brazil, huge market. They have open finance now also for a while. UK, CBOE is quite new, but they have a central infrastructure approach with one connectivity provider reaching out to all the banks. Brazil is regulated, but a market that provides solutions. UK is regulated, also market-driven in terms of solutions. And we have Hong Kong that has a framework, but a HKMA, but it's not a prescriptive regulation, and banks are not forced to open up. So as you can see, we are trying that with jurisdictions that are very different from each other, with different stages in this journey, to see if they can, and we hope and we believe we can do that, to come up with a common protocol and a common technical way of exchanging data. And this knowledge can then be used by other jurisdictions who are on this journey of opening up, or it can be inspired towards that protocol, for example. But we just want to contribute with our project, with our collaboration to this discussion, to the journey, and we hope we can speed up the development. But a number of years I can't tell you, but I hope it gets certainly faster. We are getting there than the domestic journeys.
Thank you very much, Hakan, for very, very comprehensive answer. And as you know, I'm going to moderate the cross-border open banking panel with a diverse group of participants from the region. And actually, you did excellent intro for that panel already. And thank you for helping me.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation, Valam, and the NBG. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. If there are any other questions, because we are a little bit behind the schedule. Thank you. We are involved in projects like this domestically. So we wish success to the Project Aperta, because it's like very important thing, and we hope to get more insights from the international collaboration. Now, next, we have a next speaker. Sorry, გადავარქართულზე, ესე იგი ჩვენ გვაქვს შემდეგი გამოსვლელი. ალბათ ბევრმა თქვენგანმა შეიძლება იცოდეს, რომ ჩვენ საქართველოს საბანკო ასოციაცია აქტიურად თანამშრომლობთ ბერლინის ჯგუფთან, რომელიც არის პანევროპული სტანდარტიზაციის ინიციატივა. და ჩვენი კოლეგა და პარტნიორი შემოგვიერთდება ბერლინ გრუპიდან და გვესაუბრება მათ სამუშაოზე. Hello, and floor is yours.
Hello, Mikael. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Mikael, for your kind introduction. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thanks a lot. Well, I feel very privileged and honored to be part of your event today, even when it's from a remote connection, because family affairs required me to be in Sweden this time. Hopefully, if there is another event next year, we will be able to travel to your beautiful country and be present in person. As mentioned, my name is Wijnand Machielsen, and today I would like to show you how Berlin Group standards are part of the strategies in developing successful business opportunities in open finance, which should then allow both banks and fintechs to earn money and improve the customer experience. I understand that what I'm saying is being translated, so I will try to speak not too fast and give the translators the opportunity to catch up with my words. So let me start by discussing the widespread availability of APIs in banking and payments. As we all know, payments are going through a huge transformation. Customers are rapidly adopting convenient digital payment methods in all possible channels, which has, of course, been accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And in addition to this, many new payment schemes and services are being developed and introduced to the market. At the same time, regulators play a significant role in this diversity themselves by, for instance, in Europe, where the European Central Bank promotes the digital euro as a future payment scheme in retail payments. And another example is coming from the European Commission, who is raising pressures on scheme developments in the draft Financial Data Access Regulation, abbreviated as FIDA, but also the EU Instant Payments Regulation is expected to have a large impact on payments when banks have to be ready to start receiving and sending instant payments in October this year. And we expect that this will have a massive impact on payments and will be one of the drivers to initiate a conversion from current card payments to account payments. And let's say at the heart and brains of all these developments and evolution in payments are API platforms. We know that REST APIs are the most common ones. There are other API architectures like GraphQL, WebSocket, etc. But APIs based on the RESTful methodology have clearly become the most popular. And the benefits of REST APIs are undisputed and clear. They have really become the modern standard for enabling seamless transactions and easy integration between systems. They also simplify server design, improve scalability, and at the same time, they offer robust security and flexibility to establish communications, also with legacy systems. And REST APIs have been the building blocks for Berlin Group standards right from the beginning. So let me introduce you to Berlin Group and show you the developments of the past years. Some of you may already know that Berlin Group was established as a pan-European payments interoperability standards and harmonization initiative. That's quite a lot of words, but when we started in 2004 already, one of the guiding principles was that competition at the standards level is usually a bad idea. And that it is much better to compete on service levels and provided services. From a resource and investment perspective, it simply makes not much sense to reinvent the wheel again and again and create every time another set of additional rails. All the more because payments are working in a two-sided market. And we've seen, I think we all know, too many new innovations that have failed in the past because they ignored this two-sided market challenge. And well, from all the focus areas in standardization, Berlin Group is best known in recent years from its API standards in open banking and open finance. where the providers and the users of APIs are efficiently working together in the standards development process. Well, the Berlin Group open banking compliance standards as such are invisible for most people, but still used behind the scenes by 80% of banks in the European PSD2 countries, and also in countries beyond Europe where PSD2 was taken as a benchmark reference. And in addition, almost all fintechs recognized as third-party providers under the EU PSD2 regulation, they have all implemented the standards. And yeah, with a total of roughly 200 organizations involved from the market supply and demand side, we have somehow been effective in accommodating all their needs on data modeling, consent handling, provided services, SCA management, so strong customer authentication. And these are just a few of the components in the standards. The picture that you are seeing here is even better for open finance because, for instance, Poland has decided earlier last year already, to use Berlin Group standards for all their open finance implementations. Yeah, so in fact, Poland should be more in blue as well. This is an actual overview of the market supply side participants, where we have a task force with organizations from 33 countries who coordinate the standards development. So these are the providers of open banking and open finance APIs. And the market demand side counsels on the future evolution of the standards via an advisory board, where we have PSD2 regulated third-party providers, we have non-regulated fintechs, we have IT providers, merchants, corporates, etc. So these are the users of the open banking and open finance APIs. Yeah, and ever since we started with our open banking standards in 2015, 2016, we actively engaged with all the other relevant standards bodies in the context of APIs and aligned our models with their thinking. Yeah, so with SWIFT, we were able to achieve common data models for account information and payment initiation services, which were delivered for sign-off to ISO 20022. In parallel, we have frequent meetings with, for instance, W3C, OpenID, and EPC to see where we can further harmonize things. And 2 years ago, Berlin Group was asked by the BIS CPMI committee, so the Bank for International Settlements, and they asked us to participate in a new initiative on API harmonization in cross-border payments. And this was started as a priority action of the G20 cross-border payments program. And more recently, we started to join as an observer to the BIS Innovation Hub project Aperta, which was already presented by Hakan. And yeah, altogether for us, these are all perfect examples of the harmonization that we advocate. Yeah? Now, what has been delivered in the past years? It all started in 2015, 2016, and after a few years, we published the first PSD2 open banking standards as REST APIs to the market. At that time, this was called the Next-Gen PSD2 standard, and it offered the regulatory required core PSD2 services for payments and account information, with several additional optional services and optional extended services for banks who wanted to implement a bit more for payments and for account information services. And then, roughly 5 years ago, we already started to prepare for open finance by delivering extended payment APIs that could be used as premium services and by offering support for new account types such as savings, loans, and securities accounts. Also, some additional new services were developed and offered to the market, like admin services for schemes and integrated document services, discovery API, etc. And last year, we started to bring all of this under the umbrella of the version 2 architecture. This is the architecture which is fully prepared for the future of the new API-based schemes like Giro API and EPC SPA in Europe. And well, it is also aimed to prepare this for the new regulations PSD3, PSR, Payment Services Regulation, FIDA, and also the Digital Euro of the European Central Bank. And in our liaison with the OIDI wallet consortia, the EU Digital Identity Wallet Consortia, we are working to make sure that the new digital identity wallets are also able to work with the Berlin Group standards. And finally, on the lower right box, you see some additional services that we have in our work plan for this year. Some of these are already quite advanced, and some have already entered into public market consultation. So let's say our journey started by extending the open banking middleware that banks and TPPs have already built for PSD2 payments and data services, and reuse this into more advanced payments and data services, required by the new API access schemes and required in all the channels like e-commerce, P2P, mobile apps, and point-of-sale channels. And with this, banks and TPPs are then able to leverage the existing PSD2 open banking infrastructures and investments by expanding into open finance and open data and integrate the new regulatory requirements into this. Yeah, with the implementation of harmonized and scheme-neutral API standards as a leverage of the PSD2 open banking APIs, banks will then also be able to distribute payment services directly to the market in a multi-channel distribution strategy for payment services in retail and also in corporate banking. I think I didn't mention this, but we also have corporate APIs which allow corporates to directly connect to their banks. And once integrated, such an API platform can then distribute these services as premium APIs to other cooperation partners, such as, for instance, asset brokers, corporates, as I mentioned, wallet providers and card acquirers. And these distribution channels will bring additional benefits in the future, such as the ability to attach documents or provide budget control for whitelisting purposes, etc. So the solution that Berlin Group is working on is comparable to USB-C harmonization, as we called it, where one universal interface can interconnect and operate all systems seamlessly. It will be much easier to develop, to use, to maintain, to document, quicker to navigate, and much more efficient for all parties, all stakeholders who are implementing this. You only need to learn and develop one interface, and you can control everything from one place. As you may know, we took the USB-C analogy because you may know that in the EU, new regulations have enforced the use of USB-C on all newly sold mobile phones, tablets, and cameras. And by adopting a single harmonized interface, also banks can then achieve the equivalent of USB-C for their systems, which will significantly streamline their operations, reduce costs, etc., and improve their ability to adapt to changing market needs much quicker than before. And this is exactly what Berlin Group is aiming for. Now, what qualifies the Berlin Group API stack as a harmonized universal API stack? Well, from the PSD2 experience, the Berlin Group functional models, the technical architectures, and the data models, they cover all possible banking payment products, all possible authentication methods and infrastructure requirements to support all payment initiation and account information services, in both retail and in corporate business. So the Berlin Group stack offers an extremely rich set of payment and account information services already today, and this can be extended, of course. And it supports schemes with further standards, amongst other for scheme directories and administrative services. And with the V2 architecture, it offers all flexibility for the foreseeable future to cover any additional requirements. Now, how do harmonized APIs help to grow our business? Because that is in the end why we are doing this for a large part. In addition to improved customer experience and faster time to market. Well, full harmonization will bring easier integration with reduced development and maintenance costs and faster time to market, as I mentioned already. Also consistent security across all possible transaction types and consistent user interfaces. And what is even more interesting from a business perspective is that harmonized APIs enable applications to scale seamlessly across multiple regions. So banks and fintechs are able to distribute their services on a much bigger market, which is obviously hugely interesting from a business perspective. And with harmonized APIs, we are really talking about embedded finance, where existing product features and functionalities are more easily combined into new commercial products and services. Users with the right authorization can then access these services from anywhere. So let's say banking as a platform and banking as a service propositions open then the creativity of third parties by both exposing and selling own open finance microservices to third parties via APIs, and also by integrating additional third-party offerings via APIs. And harmonized APIs give you the reach and required interoperability to make a sound business out of this. And the statistics, Hakan mentioned this already. I think he said that volumes are going through the roof. But indeed, the statistics are showing that open banking APIs in Europe are significantly starting to transform the financial landscape. Roughly, we have now a 5 times relative increase in volumes in 3 years. And Juniper Research predicts the global value of open banking payments to be almost 30 times more next year than it was in 2021. And as I said at the beginning, these numbers are expected to grow massively from October this year, when the instant payments mandate starts for banks. And what we see is that both banks and TPPs have really started to identify a lot of new business opportunities with open finance as a leverage from the open banking architectures and investments. And this will undoubtedly contribute to the predictions of Juniper Research. So what started as an unattractive compliance exercise is now changing to big opportunities for innovation and new business models with sound monetization and earnings potential. This was something which was not possible in PSD2 open banking because the regulation did not allow this. Now, for Berlin Group, open banking has always only been the beginning of a larger journey into open finance and open data. And as you have seen in previous slides, we have in the past years taken our PSD2 standards as the basis for the open finance framework. Of course, it doesn't stop here. So we are already in intense discussions with the industry associations for instance, insurances, wealth management, and pension data. And who knows what else comes on the path of Berlin Group in the future. Currently, this is mainly driven by our market supply side participants, so by the banks and their associations. But also the market demand side is coming with lots of interesting ideas that are filling our work plans for the coming years. By the way, the picture on this slide was borrowed from another source, but on the left, you see some of the more interesting and rewarding open finance use cases. Yeah, in the context of open finance, I mentioned it already, schemes are considered effective in implementing the standardized services because they provide a multilateral legal framework which ensures a smooth and efficient cooperation and interconnection between the scheme participants. And they also offer a scalable solution that facilitates the expansion and growth of open finance services. They also accommodate innovation and regulatory compliance. And of course, they create the opportunity for new revenue streams to both banks and fintechs by monetizing API access and value-added services. We are currently working already with 2 defined schemes, of which Giro API in the German market is very advanced and has been full operational since January. And they have banks and since this week also a few TPPs who are starting to cooperate with open finance services and offering this to their clients. EPC SPA is a pan-European project. They are still discussing the setup of a technical pilot, and it will take a bit more time before this has matured, but that is only natural, of course, because setting up a scheme in one national market like Giro API does is always a bit easier than setting up something on a European scale. But in the future, we will see more schemes coming from the FIDA regulation. This will still take a couple of years more. But in the meantime, Giro API and EPC SPA are fueling the market. That's very clear. Okay, in conclusion, embracing open finance was for us a strategic imperative, because it enables organizations to develop revenue-generating services in a collaborative ecosystem while maintaining a customer-centric focus and continuously evolve to meet the demands of the future financial landscape. And this approach not only enhances competitiveness, but also ensures that financial services remain relevant and valuable to customers. Okay, I think that was my last slide. So thank you very much for your attention. If there is any time left, then I would be happy, of course, to answer some questions. And you can always contact us afterwards, of course, directly or via Michal Kapanadze, who has always been a big support to the Berlin Group work.
Thank you. Thank you. თუ არის რა შეკითხებები ჩვენ სამწუხაროდ დრო აღარ დაგვრჩა, მაგრამ თუ გაქვთ.
Hello. Thank you, Wynand, for the presentation, but especially thanks for the work that you do. I think it's in the cornerstone for open banking adoption. So my question is, what do you consider the most important factors for the open banking to accelerate adoption going forward?
I would say try to get away from the regulatory mandates as soon as possible and move into open finance. Because there are earnings opportunities which are not, at least in the European PSD2 context, this was not possible. And second, I think that the new API access schemes will certainly fuel the earnings potentials for banks and TPPs. I mean, what we are seeing from the experience in Giro API and since recently I am also directly involved in the discussions with EPC SPA. What we see there is that there is certainly a lot of business interest from banks and TPPs to start doing open finance business. And yeah, this will definitely grow. What we see with Giro API, this has started in January. I mean, that's only 5 months in operation now, and we see already hundreds and hundreds of banks. Well, I think it's even a bit more than 1,000, because the German market is organized efficiently for the savings banks and cooperative banks. They have one IT center which does all the work. But now we see also a high interest from TPPs, and we know that the business models are very attractive for both. So it's a win-win situation. And what we also see is a high interest, I think I mentioned this, a high interest from the corporate side for, let's say, scheme neutral and bank neutral standards, because corporates don't like well, corporates are doing business with many banks, usually, at least the large ones do, and they don't want to be locked into, let's say, proprietary APIs. So they prefer Berlin Group standards to be used across their channels. I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure.
Thank you. So basically, money can buy anything.
Yeah, well, there is at least something to gain from cooperation and collaboration in implementations, and so I think that is a very positive sign. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Raymond. სამწუხაროდ მეგობრებო, საკითხების დრო თოდა შეზღუდულად გვაქვს, თუმცა თუ ვინმეს აქვს მაინც კითხვა, ეს კითხვას თუ არა და კარგი. Thank you very much, Raymond. Thank you for your presentation.
It was a real pleasure. It was a real pleasure. Good luck with your panel session.
Thank you. Bye. ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანი პრეზენტაცია იყო ჩემთვის, ხოთ, ესე იგი, ახლა ჩვენ გვექნება პანელი, სანამ სკამებს დაალაგებენ ორი სიტყვას გეტყვით, რომ ჩვენ ვინც ახლა ღია ბანკში არის ჩართული და ვინც იყენებს, იცის რომ ჩვენი სტანდარტები Berlin Group-ის სტანდარტების მიხედვით არის და ჩვენ ვართ არა მარტო გამოყენებლები, არამედ კონტრიბუტორებიც, ანუ ვაგზავნით change request-ებს ვაგზავნით ხოლმე და სხვა მონაწილეობს სხვადასხვა სამუშაო ჯგუფებში და ხო, მათ შორის ისიც რაზეც იყო საუბარი, რომ რაღაც სერვისები ჯობს იყოს ფასიანი და აი ბიზნესმა, ესე იგი, წაიყვანოს საქმე წინ. კი, ეს გარკვეულწილად ემთხვევა და დიდწილადაც ემთხვევა, ყოველ შემთხვევაში ჩემთვის პირადად ძალიან დიდწილად ემთხვევა ხედვას იმისა, როგორ შეგვიძლია წავიდეთ წინ და მხოლოდ არ ვიყოთ დამოკიდებული სავალდებულო მოთხოვნების დაკმაყოფილებაზე, რომელიც გვევალება, არამედ ამ რეალურად, ესე იგი, შექმნას რაღაც შემოსავლები და მათ შორის ბანკებისთვის და ასევე ახალი use case-ები სხვადასხვა გამოყენებისთვის. მოკლედ, აი ახლა ჩვენ გვექნება ახლა პანელი, რომელზეც განვიხილავთ რეგიონული თანამშრომლობის და მსგავს საკითხებს, ანუ ბევრ საკითხს და ბევრ ძალიან საინტერესო საკითხს განვიხილავთ და პანელს წარუძღვება ჩვენი, ესე იგი, კოლეგა, ჩვენი, ესე ვთქვათ, ჩვენ ზოგადად ყოველთვის ასე ვამბობთ, რომ ღია ბანკინგი საქართველოში ეს იყო აბსოლუტური კოლაბორაცია ღია ასოციაციასა და ეროვნულ ბანკს შორის და ეს შეიძლება ვთქვათ, რომ არის მაგალითი იმისა, როგორ შეიძლება, რომ მარეგულირებელი და ასოციაცია ურთიერთობდნენ ერთმანეთში და რაღაც საერთო საქმეს აკეთებდნენ. გთხოვთ მიესალმოთ ბატონი ვარლამ ევანოვიძე ეროვნულ ბანკიდან, რომელიც იქნება ჩვენი პანელის სამყარო. გთხოვთ ვარლამ. შემდეგ, ესე იგი, ჩვენ გვექნება ცოტა ისეთი პანელი, შერეული, ჯერ ასე გამოვაცხადებთ იმას, ვინც ფიზიკურად გვისწრება. ტამერლან რუსტამოვი, აზერბაიჯანიდან, გთხოვთ ტამერლან. კიპსიდან, გთხოვთ. სამხრეთიდან მეზობენ პანელისტი რომელიც ჩაგვერთვებიან მოშორებით ესა პირველი არის ბენედიქტ ნოლენს CBAS Innovation Hub-იდან თუ შეგვიძლია რომ ჩავთვლოთ და მეორე არის ინტერბანკ კარს ცენტრიდან რომელიც წარმოადგენს თურქეთს. Hello? და ბოლოს ასე გადავინახოთ რომ წაყვანის პოზიციაზე. ნაირად
Thank you, Misha, for introduction. Very good to see you, Benedict. Very good to see you, Ozan. And we would wish to have you here next time when we talk again about cross-border collaboration. Actually, the purpose of this panel is to bring what Hakan was talking and Berlin Group representative was talking about, this dialogue to bring into the regional context. And I think this is happening first time in this region that we start talking about aligning with real economy trends, fintech enablers, cross-borderization of open banking. And my observation is that developed countries and developing countries are more or less at the same level of development when it comes to cross-border open banking. I recall my talk with colleagues in Montenegro during fintech event with colleagues from Belgium and Netherlands. The conversation was about open banking and they made the comparison with the physical borders, saying following, when it comes to physical borders, we have any barrier between Belgium and Netherlands. But when it comes to open banking, we have huge wall. So that's the reality. And it's quite counterintuitive, right? To have in a digital century and digital world such a big wall. Something went wrong as it appears. And on the other hand, we can look at this as an opportunity for less developed countries, and for our region, maybe this technological innovation and democratization brought by APIs and talks and dialogues about collaboration, interoperability, standardization will be kind of putting us in the similar position with the developed countries, and it will accelerate the ongoing trend in the real economy. We are having very diverse group of panelists. Besides Benedict and Ozan, we are having a representative from Azerbaijan. We are having a representative from Armenia, and of course, Georgia, Mikhail is here. But what is quite unique about this panel, we are having Papuna Lejava, who used to be vice governor of central bank for years, and actually designing the open banking. And we will have opportunity to ask him now from the other side whether the standards and regulation he have designed for a few years, whether it worked in practice or not. So let's start with Tamerlan. Tell us what is the state of open banking in Azerbaijan, and what is your role as a banking association where you see opportunities coming, and help us to define the reality in Azerbaijan open banking current state, because we know the maturity of development is quite different among our regional participants.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to extend my greetings to all of you. It's my pleasure to be here. I congratulate you on the 30th anniversary of the issuance of national currency. Let me bring your attention some brief information. What we did, what we have in this sphere. The law of the Republic of Azerbaijan on the payment service and payment systems was adopted in 2023. Actually, it's based on PSD2. As you know, we defined the legal framework for open banking technology, including payment initiation service and account information service based on this law. Legal entities, to provide account information service must undergo registration procedure with the central bank. For providing payment initiation service, organization must obtain a license as a payment institution or electronic money institution. Commercial banks and national postal operator must notify 1 month in advance central bank to provide this payment service. Today, 6 electronic money institutions and 2 payment institutions can provide payment initiation service, while 4 electronic money institutions and 1 payment institution can provide account information service. Central bank is actively working on the establishment of centralized infrastructure for open banking, and this infrastructure, by the usage of this infrastructure, we are going to provide both of these service, payment initiation service and account information service. Today, the first model of this platform for account information service was developed, was launched, and ongoing integration works for connecting commercial banks to this platform has been conducted, and the initial idea of the platform for payment initiation service was developed, and simultaneously Central Bank is a member of Open Finance Task Force within the Berlin Group initiative as an observer. In the legislative side, we adopted the open banking guidelines, and we defined the requirements for the usage of the network channels used on providing both of this payment service. And these requirements define set of rules or standards to provide this service, while providing this service to ensure safety and stability of networks among payment service providers.
Thank you, Tamerlan. I move now to Misha and to Georgia. So, Misha, I second your words regarding excellent partnership between Banking Association and National Bank of Georgia. It was a great example of partnership. I think quite fast developing the regulatory framework, but should we be delighted with the current status quo, or we have reasons for optimism looking into future? What do you think where we are now in the process? If you compare our position to the marathon is about 46 kilometers or something. Where we are in this journey, what do you think?
Me personally, I'm always like, I always want to move, but it's my personal thing. But on the other hand, what I see and what I understand is that it's sometimes I can compare it to like when I was a child, I was studying playing piano. So I hated it, of course. But what I found difficult there is that I didn't have any time during that study to enjoy the intermediary results. So like I learned something, let me to play on the concert first, get some, upload this, whatever. So same here. I think it's a marathon with stops, where we stop, we see if we achieve, if we have something to fix, if some of our services not work as desired, then maybe to tune it a little bit, and then for the next step. This is how I consider it, and but yes, eventually we need to digitize a lot of things, not just because its digitalization is something we are like dreaming of, but to make new services or make services, etc. So we need to look if everything we did already worked as expected. If not, can be adjusted with small things, and if it cannot, okay, that's also sometimes happen. So it must be constant review of the lesson also, and I would like to saying that this is a process from my point of view in this regard.
So it's a never-ending marathon, basically. That's the summary.
So you're changing shoes and continue then.
Okay, thank you. Next, I move to Ozan. Hello, Ozan.
Hello.
Could you please walk us through your journey of open banking in Turkey?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure, and apologize for not being able to attend in person. So in Turkey, the regulation and oversight of open banking are managed by two key authorities, each with specific responsibilities. Open banking services within the payments domain are regulated by the Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey under the Payment Systems Law. Whereas open banking practices related to core banking activities, such as data sharing for loans and investments, for example, fall under the Banking Regulation and Supervision Agency, BRSA scope. As of today, BRSA is working on the secondary regulations for open banking in the core banking activities. The scope and operational rules for banking-related data sharing remain under development, and nothing has been published yet. However, in contrast, the CBRT's regulation of payment-related open banking services is more structured and active. CBRT has amended the Payment Systems Law by integrating two open banking services, payment initiation and account information, and made it mandatory for the banks to participate in the system. Actually, BKM plays a vital role in our open banking journey. Maybe a little bit background information of the BKM. BKM was actually the company that I am the general manager, was founded in 1990 with the foundation purpose of clearing and settling card transactions. And as cards began to be widely used, BKM introduced various services in the card acceptance and validation spaces. For example, BKM launched the nation's first digital wallet, BKM Express, enabling citizens to make merchant payments with their cards integrated into their wallets. And also BKM introduced the national card scheme, TROY, in 2016, which has currently reached an 18% market share. However, I believe looking at the historical background of the BKM, the breakthrough moment was actually 2020 when Central Bank became the majority shareholder. This cooperation aimed to have a public-private partnership and benefit from the Central Bank's authority and regulation power, and at the same time benefit from the BKM's entrepreneurial capabilities, because BKM had a lot of experience in the private domain. Actually, the CBRT BKM partnership was a strategic fit, aligning perfectly with the launch of the immediate payment systems, FAST, which was launched by the Central Bank in 2020. I was at the central bank at that time. And CBRT took the ownership of the FAST and its operation while commissioning the overlay services and open banking services to BKM. This strategic outsourcing to BKM has proven successful so far, with BKM initiating the overlay services such as proxy addressing, national QR code and QR code flows, request to pay, and as well as open banking services. As I mentioned at the beginning, BKM plays a central role as the technical coordinator, providing the national API standard, operating the centralized API gateway. So we have built our in-house API gateway, connecting all the parties in Turkey, and facilitating testing, certification environments to ensure interoperability. Actually, BKM has been mandated to fulfill these responsibilities under the payment systems law again. And maybe some stats to highlight the platform's scale and efficiency. Currently, we have 48 participants, both account servicing payment service providers and third-party providers, integrated our centralized infrastructure. And we experience around 12 million API calls per day. And our centralized gateway platform supports around 14 million open banking users. And actually, we have over 99.4% success rate in API calls without business errors, showcasing its reliability. And we are proudly owning and operating our centralized infrastructure. This is our journey so far, actually.
Thank you, Ozan. It's quite impressive journey, and congratulations.
Maybe
And we look forward cooperation between Georgia and Turkey. As you're well aware, we're talking on specifics of payments integration, on specifics of open banking interoperability in the future. Vice Governor Hatice is attending this celebration, and we are grateful that these initiatives are supported from high level in Turkey. Next, I move to Ruben. We all know, Ruben, that real development of open banking and open finance is quite depending on instant payments in place. Without instant payments, it's quite difficult to count on real open banking adoption. We know that in Armenia, instant payments are well developed. You have standardized your QR code payments. So could you please also share experience regarding your strategy and what was the achieved so far in payments ecosystem?
Good evening. Thank you very much for organizing this insightful and interesting event and this panel. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you on this 30th anniversary of Georgian Lari. And now a little bit about instant payments. Important step in interorganizational integration is the project called Arca Pay, which was developed and managed by Arca. Arca is Armenian National Card Processing System. It has already systems between bank accounts of individuals just by phone number. The roadmap includes B2B and also international payments. Hopefully till year-end, additional functionalities will be introduced to the market. Over time, we expect that systems, not only banks, will be integrated into Arca Pay system. What next is QR. Your question was about QRs. In Armenia, historically, let's say, years, more than 5 years, there are banks and payment institutions which introduced to the market for their clients their own QR solutions, which were developed using different technologies. But based on decision, based on plan, till year-end, Arca Pay will introduce to the market one centralized QR solution for all participants, further streamlining digital retail payments. Few words about cross-border collaboration and cooperation of Arca. Arca is in the process of integration with various systems operating locally and internationally in China and Uzbekistan. If I'm not mistaken, it's a current project on collaboration between Arca and Georgian Card. And finally, a few words I would like to state how Union Banks of Armenia in promoting digital payments. We are actively involved in promoting digital solutions, technologies, by trainings, workshops, also by inviting international experts. In addition, Union Banks of Armenia is also the governance of Arca. Arca shareholder structure is like 55% shareholding is by Central Bank of Armenia and 45% by Armenian banks. Banks are represented by 3 members. One of those seats held by the Union Banks of Armenia, and currently are represented on Arca's board. Hopefully I answered all your questions.
Yes, Ruben, thank you very much for your detailed and comprehensive. So we look forward to future collaboration between Arca and Georgian Card and other payment schemes in Georgia. It would be beneficial and good foundation for cross-border open banking afterwards. I cannot wait to move to Papuna now. Actually, Papuna is CEO and founder, first mover into open banking, fintech called KeepsMe. I have already incorporated my question during the introduction. I will just interpret the question in Georgian in a simple way. That's the question.
Thank you, Alam, and thanks for the... Hello, can you hear me? Yes, first of all, thanks for giving me the privilege to be part of this panel. It's an honor. Briefly about myself and Kips. I'm co-founder and CEO of Kips, which is a payments platform. We aggregate different types of payments. It includes traditional card services, Apple Pay, Google Pay, IBAN to IBAN transfer, and digital asset payments. As well, I'm rightly mentioned, we were the first company to adopt the open banking authorization from the central bank last July, and we demonstrated the first live payments publicly in September last year. And since then, the share of banking initiations in our portfolio went from 0 to 75% in just 6 months. So this is based just on one company, what open banking can do, how transformative it can be. Now to your question, what we ordered and what we received. So of course the expectation was different. The open banking standards were in place, so we expected quick adoption, quick integration with the banks. But of course, this was theoretically. I mean, first of all, a lot of credit has to go to National Bank of Georgia and the Banking Association to bring open banking to where it is now. But when you start practical implementation, you always find yourself in the challenges that you didn't expect. So it was the most difficult part was in the first 2-3 months when integrating with the multiple banks. Of course, we found a lot of technical challenges and things we did not expect. But for now, most of these challenges are solved. Of course, there are still some that we miss, and we're working together to resolve those issues. So open banking has even better prospects in Georgia. So we consider ourselves as the first. We're taking the hardship of paving the way to some extent, but it's a choice that we made. We prefer to be first and get the first advantage, but at the same time we take the cost of dealing with these challenges first.
Thank you, Papuna. Now I have a great pleasure and opportunity to ask Benedict, based on a conversation you heard, what is happening in our regional context, from the perspective the center head, this innovation hub, Hong Kong Center, and at the foundations of projects like Aperta and Enbridge, as well as Agora, Nexus, Aurora. So since cross-border collaboration goes with open banking, it's not only open banking, but those projects I mentioned, experimentalizing in use cases of trade finance, tokenized deposits, etc. What would be your thoughts about potential regional collaboration, as well as any recommendations, having a picture vision about technical versus regulatory interoperability would be very helpful us to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me know if it's clear. Can you hear me?
We can hear you very well.
Okay, good. So thank you for the introduction. So on my side, the line is a bit weak, so I couldn't hear you very well. But in sum, I come, as you mentioned, from the BIS Innovation Hub, the Hong Kong Center. Hakan, who presented to you earlier, is a member of my staff. So his specific focus is on open banking, and he has explained to you Project Aperta and how we are collaborating on this between a series of jurisdictions and a series of observing and involved parties, including also the National Bank of Georgia and also furthermore the Berlin Group, as you saw present. Now, other than that, the BIS has been, let's say, tasked with looking more broadly at innovation in central banking, or at any innovation that could be necessary for a central bank to consider and to evaluate. And in that regard, as Varnam just expressed, there are a couple of flagship projects that we have done. So one of our first flagship projects is actually the Enbridge project, which the National Bank of Georgia was also an observer on the Enbridge project. And in that project concerned, you could say, around wholesale, creating a wholesale CBDC hub, right? So creating a centralized platform on which the central banks can issue their wholesale CBDC for taking advantage of the features that blockchains and DLTs offer, which is instant and atomic settlement. That project was particularly positioned in the context of decreasing correspondent footprint in different parts of the world, but certainly in emerging markets. I could say that in the developed markets, that problem does not exist, and therefore maybe there is no need for a material infrastructure change. But in the case of emerging markets, we saw an opportunity to take advantage of the DLT technology for instant settlement. But the key aspect, as said in the case of Enbridge, is that it makes use of central bank money, so wholesale central bank money. This project was followed later by a second project, which Varlam also mentioned, called Project Agora, set more in the developed market context, and they're focused on what we call tokenized deposits. So it is thinking about, from a bank's perspective, given that the world is fast evolving towards stable coins and other forms of crypto assets, should banks actually tokenize their deposits to enable, again, this instant settlement and maybe also aspects of programmability. So that is Project Agora. Another flagship project that we have is Project Nexus. So there we're talking about connecting faster payment systems, because if you individually connect them across countries, it will take a very long time to connect the world of faster payment systems. So Nexus creates a hub for connecting those faster payment systems, and therefore, to a large extent, you could say retail payment. And Nexus, unlike Enbridge and Agora, Nexus is using existing technologies, existing FPS, whereas Agora and Enbridge are making use of new technologies, and in particular DLT and tokenization. And other than those, as you heard, Aperta is another one of our flagship projects. So again, Enbridge and Agora is around a hub for wholesale CBDC, Nexus a hub for FPS and retail payments or smaller size payments, and Aperta is really a hub for data, right? That's ultimately what open banking and open finance is about. But other than that, the Innovation Hub also looks into other aspects of finance that could benefit of collaboration between the central banks. And I would flag in that regard maybe two more of our projects. One is Project Mandala, which is seeking to evaluate if you can program some sanctions compliance into tokenized payments. This is, you could say, early stage explorations, and it's looking at the art of the possible, but I think we all know that sanctions compliance takes up a lot of resources. So if this could be better automated, it would certainly be good for the banking sector. But it's probably longer out in terms of actually going live. And then other than this, we also have Project Agora, Aurora, which looks at using data across different central banks for identifying AML problems in payments. So that project collaborates across central banks while respecting of course, the privacy of the data. So I would flag these, and maybe a last one is cybersecurity. We are also well aware that cyber risk is always there, and we built that into some of our prototypes. So, for example, Enbridge is a prototype that is actually already in an MVP, meaning that daily payments are actually happening on Enbridge between the participant jurisdictions, and therefore this platform has built-in cybersecurity. But some of the earlier prototypes do not actually yet incorporate cybersecurity because they're not in an MVP or in an actual production mode. But nevertheless, we're well aware of those cyber risks. And so another project maybe to flag is Project Leap, which is looking at quantum security for payment systems. So that gives you a little bit of an overview. I know it's taking you further away from open banking into open finance. To a certain extent, I think the tokenization sector would dare say that they are providing the most open form of finance. And therefore, as central banks, we look into that and reflect on that and think, okay, if that is their form of open finance, then how does classic TradFi need to evolve? And again, that's where Enbridge, Agora, and Mandala fit in.
Thank you very much, Benedict, for very comprehensive. So many projects. We always say that those projects are perfect analogies for us in this region for fostering collaboration, and we're eager to be active participants in those R&D projects and testing international sandboxes, which currently this is leading, and I'm very, very optimistic about these projects. They will bring enthusiastic about how we're quite enthusiastic. We're quite enthusiastic about which we see a lot of value in Nexus projects to because Nexus already proved that it is the region to have interoperable payments. This is one of the key industries for us, and we say direct value for these projects and these issues. For sharing, thank you very much for sharing your perspective once again. Next question would be to again. So we some level of integration already had with the army sector. Recently, Bank of Georgia, which is quite a long bank in Georgia, acquired. So we have structures. What are your thoughts about this kind of acquisitions and the future thoughts how we can do this foundation? Interesting to know.
Thank you very much for the question. So the recent acquisition, it was almost more than 1 year ago already. One of Armenia's largest banks, Amera Bank, was acquired by Bank of Georgia Group. And it's a really notable development for the region. This transaction is a signal and also an opportunity. I would say that it's not just an M&A deal or transaction. It's like a symbol of growing regional financial connectivity and also trust and interest in the Armenian market. That's why I'm not aware about any new negotiations between our banks, but I guess it's only positive for the region and for both banks and for both banking segments.
Thank you. And the next question is basically it's regarding future. In one sentence, it would be recommendation how to enforce cross-border collaboration. And let's start with
I cannot hear if the question is directed to me at the moment.
So this question, South.
Unfortunately, we cannot hear.
Maybe you might want to turn on the captions so that you can.
Basically, I wanted to ask the connection negotiations and the collaboration. So as I mentioned, we are quite optimistic and enthusiastic to be of the natural experiments like Nexus and Bridge and others, but it takes also quite a time. strategic recommendation for us to start negotiating on a bilateral basis for this hard kind of projects, or what would be an efficient way to proceed in this region. Okay, then Tamerlan, what's your thoughts about future?
About the future, I'd say, I think that in our case, regulatory sandbox will be a good idea to stimulate cooperation among cross-border cooperation and create more affordable and effective environment for fintechs. Because it will be more secure and it will give them opportunity to test the innovative products. And also government authorities as a central bank will earn more experience from this test environment and take the necessary steps to develop the legal environment.
Yes, as you know, we are already talking to our Azerbaijani colleagues in Azerbaijan Central Bank about cross-border regulatory sandbox. International Finance Corporation was quite supportive of negotiating between us. Basically, a final destination we would wish to achieve would be mutual recognition of licenses, kind of passporting regime. And your support would be appreciated in fostering this process.
Very happy to assess this process as well. Maybe we'll cooperate more closely in this field and define the main strategy, how to solve this issue.
Thank you. Ozan, what are your thoughts about future? What are the improvements we need to be and wishes, recommendations?
Sure. So there has been a lot of effort in terms of cross-border collaboration. Actually, since the 2020 G20, when the authorities were assigned to enhance cross-border payments, many trials and experiments have occurred. BIS, as I think Benedict has also given so many examples, that BIS has been conducting many POCs and pilots in the fintech hubs. Meanwhile, the instant cross-border payments have been made possible in some instances through intra-regional collaborations across various geographies, such as like the integration between like Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand, or India, between India and Singapore's Pay Now. So of course, there are a lot of efforts, many trials. I think the future, the long-term goal is interlinking the central bank digital currencies. However, a sooner method or approach is to interlink the immediate payment systems directly. I'm an ex-central banker, and our central bank, the Republic of Turkey, the CBRT, has plans and efforts and also dialogues through the region. I think they are also in touch with you, Varlam, to interlink our FAST system to other FPSs around the region. In our case, there is a sooner method or approach, a more indirect way of interlinking FPSs. It's through participants of the system using QR codes. I think it has already started at some regions. We at BKM have the vision to serve in cross-border payments, acting as a gateway to international wallets to conduct merchant payments. So the idea is that.
Thank you very much, Ozan. We are very supportive of this collaboration between Turkey and Georgia. Sure. As you know, appreciate your support. I'm quite cautious about timing now because we are limited. And thanks again for your support and being optimistic. And we'll look forward for the further collaboration between our banks and associations. Last question goes to Papuna. And whether he already has some ideas of going cross-border and how we can be supportive to the private sector to motivate them even more.
Thank you, Varlam. Yes, we have already opened the offices in Milan, in Istanbul, and in Tashkent, and we're about to start operations both in Turkey and in Europe. About cross-border cooperation, I would have a very short, simple answer. I think standardization is number one, and second is interoperability of the payment systems between different jurisdictions, because best use cases of open banking adoption comes with the instant payment systems, and cross-border will need the same. I also want to address your question in a different angle. So what's needed for open banking adoption in general? So one of the goals of open banking was to separate the financial intermediation and the banking business from the technology and allow the third-party providers to offer a better user experience to manage their client funds in the banks. And in order to draw this line more clearly, I think it's important to achieve the independence of the third-party providers in terms of the user experience, including in the authentication process. And the ways to do it is to allow the third parties to authenticate the payments and information sharing for their clients, and to develop the embedded payment options for the open banking.
Any final thoughts, Ruben, Misha?
So, as a final thought, I would say we'll see in the future more collaboration, rather competition, more personalized and data-driven services, and perhaps much stronger focus on cybersecurity. What we need now, I would say, is more structured collaboration, like a roadmap on standards, on regulation, and that's why I would like to propose, perhaps we can discuss it also in the future, to organize regular meetings, online, sometimes offline, between associations, bank unions, in order to update each other on current developments in our countries. It will be for mutual beneficial, I would say.
I will fully support that, and I hope the present event contributed a little bit in it. Happy to hear that. Regarding your question, I think what we need also, so there are a few things. First is, of course, is open standards, usability, whatever. And the second thing is we need to let competition in. So more competition will eventually, including not only competition between banks, but also competition between fintech companies, etc. And supporting the competition will eventually drive us to the better future. Because this is how we learned how to walk, how to do whatever else, how to organize nice conferences. So competition is the key, I think, when we need to enable this.
Thank you, Misha. Just a final thought. I think it was quite insightful event. In 2 hours, we were able to have a global view what's going on open finance, and then bring this global trends into quite a local context of our region, and it's a great foundation of for future collaboration, I think. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for this start of this dialogue, and we are ready to collaborate with Banking Association, with other central banks to actually build on this foundation and to continue the conversation and acting actually and moving to the specific projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. დიდი მადლობა.
Thank you.
Თვითონ სტუმრებო, დიდი მადლობა რომ მობრძანდით. ამით ჩვენი დღევანდელი ღონისძიება დასრულებულია. მიხარია რომ თუ შედგა, იყო პატარ-პატარა ტექნიკური პრობლემები, მაგრამ რა ვქნათ, საბოლოო ჯამში ყველაფერი კარგად გამოვიდა, იმედია და იმედი მაქვს რომ ეს გაგრძელდება. დიდი მადლობა.